Hello and welcome to this taster lesson on the Year 1 Graphic Communication course. For this lesson, I will introduce the digital design software program Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator is an industry standard software. So that means if you were working as a graphic designer, graphic artist or illustrator today, it would be desirable to have knowledge of and possess skills using this program. So Adobe Illustrator lets you create graphics and type in a vector format. So vector graphics are resolution independent, which means you can resize an image to any size or scale without losing the quality of that image or allowing the image to become pixelated. Paths can be created, removed, moved, stretched, squeezed or curved, so you can adjust and adapt your imagery to further your ideas. So, first of all, we're going to look at this artist called Chris Lyons. So Chris Lyons is a contemporary illustrator who predominantly works in the digital software program Adobe Illustrator. He creates these hyper-realistic images working with an authentic colour palette, effectively recording shadows and highlights. So Chris Lyons, he works today and he creates graphic pieces for clients such as the New York Times, Washington Post, Pentagram, Amazon and Penguin Publishing. So we're going to respond to this artist now and create our own vector illustration in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm just going to escape my PowerPoint here and I'm going to open up my Illustrator program. I'm going to create new as I'm going to create a new document for this drawing. So just give it a few seconds to open up the window. Okay, so we're going to select A4 today as that's a good size that we can print from. I have already prepared a photograph to draw from. So I'm going to drag this from my desktop. So this is a photograph that I've taken purposefully for our project. So our project is food and this is the photograph I've taken in the studio. So this photograph is a primary source image. Okay, so it's not taken from the internet, it's not anyone else's, it's my personal photo. So the first thing I did was I dragged that over onto my new document here. And the next thing I'm going to do now is, this is where your layers live, okay, behind these two diamond shapes. I'm going to hit in this space here and that will create a lock. So that lock locks the layer. So if I select my pen tool now, I can't work over that layer. That's just locked there as my source image. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is create a new layer here. So we're going to work over this photograph so we can get that same accuracy and detail, the proportions, the colours, the shadows and the highlights, just like the artist. Okay, I'm going to zoom into this tomato, so I'm going to press Command and Plus to zoom in. So I'm going to focus just now on this demonstration on the small tomato at the front, on the foreground of the photograph. So I'm only going to be using a few tools here. So the toolbar on Illustrator is over here on the left hand side. For this task, I'm going to mainly use our pen tool. Okay, so we've got our pen tool here. We've got our colours over here, so it's a white fill with a black outline set at the moment. Okay, we've got the black arrow that allows us to select shapes, and the white arrows allows us to move individual anchor points. So it'll all make sense in a second. Okay, so to start with, I've got my black pen. I'm just going to do some dot-to-dot motions around the shape of this tomato. So I'm just going to keep it quite simplistic for now and I'll explain more as we go. So as you can see, this has created a white fill with a black outline. Okay, and it's actually blocked my sight from seeing all the details of this tomato. So I can change this, okay? So if I select on the fill here, I can select this red stripe across here to give it no fill. Okay, I can also, with my black arrow, grab the shape and I can take out my outline as well because it had a big heavy black outline and that's not really realistic for this tomato. Okay, the next thing is, behind my pen tool, I've got this anchor point tool here, which is really quite handy. I can actually click on these anchor points and I can curve these shapes, okay, to give it a more accurate curved edge that's more like the tomato. Okay, so I'm going to grab that one there and I'm just going to go around this image and add this beautiful curved shape, okay. Okay, so white arrow, if you select on an anchor point, you can move them. Okay, whereas the black arrow grabs the entire shape, you see, so it will grab the whole path that we've created. So I will now select the eyedropper tool. I need to grab my black arrow, grab my shape that I've created, and I want to fill in this with an accurate colour. So with my eyedropper tool, I can select a pixel on here and select a colour for my tomato here. So it depends which pixel that you select, it depends on what colour it'll be. So if I Command Z, as you can see, there's different colours of pixels within this image. So try and choose the most accurate. If you're unhappy with the colour, you can always double click on the fill here and actually find a more accurate colour or a colour that's more desirable for your image. Okay, I'm going to select OK with that now. So if I click back on my layers, on my diamonds here, I've got my base layer with my photograph that's locked, and now I've created this tomato shape. So I'm going to double click on here and I'm actually just going to write tomato. Okay, so I know what that one is, but it's quite easy to see on the icon there. Okay, next thing is I'm going to create a new layer to work on. Okay, I'm going to close the eye on the layer here so I can't see it. I'll lock it so I don't work over it. Okay, and on layer 3 I'm going to draw on some more detail. So with Adobe Illustrator it's about building layers of shapes. So again, I'm going to select my pen tool, I'm going to zoom in a bit closer and I'm going to create the green part of the tomato. That's great. So I'm going to select the colour for this tomato. Perfect. So as you can see, I can zoom out and I've got my two shapes now developing. Okay, if I click off here with the black arrow, you can see the top of the tomato there. So I'm going to lock this layer, add another layer and put in some more details. So this time I'm going to add the highlights in. Okay, and as you can see, I'm going to move that layer behind the green layer and you can start seeing this image building. Okay, next layer. Okay, I'm going to put some shadows in. Okay, here we have it. This is the image of the tomato, or the start of my image. If I just go to my layers here, I have actually just popped on some more layers so you can see how the image builds. I've added more shadows, more highlights and details, so you can see that building here onto the image. So the more detail, the more layers you put on, the more realistic this piece is going to be. Okay, so now we've got this piece, I'm going to extend it a bit further and we're going to respond to a second artist now. So the artist I've chosen, I've got a sample of their work here on my desktop, so I'm just going to drag that over. It's another artist that works in Adobe Illustrator and he creates these vibrant and lively pieces. So his name is Rubens LP. Okay, so we're going to respond to this artist as well, creating our own version of this with our existing illustration. So first thing is I'm going to pop on a new background. So I'm going to add a new layer here. Just move this out of the way. So that's layer 16. Okay, and I'm going to start putting in some additional shapes here. So I'm going to use the shape tool this time and I'm going to put in this stripy background. So to begin with, I'm going to drop over a shade here and I'm going to colour pick that. I'm going to colour pick that to the pink colour. Okay, and then I'm going to add some more layers over the top of this. Okay, and I'm going to create those stripes. So if I'm just going to colour pick here, I'm going to colour pick the lighter stripe. Then with my black arrow, I'm going to select that shape. I'm going to press the Alt key and I'm going to repeat this across the page. Okay, can you see it's changing its identity already? Okay, next stage is I'm actually going to take that whole tomato shape here, so I've selected that, and again I'm going to make that the same colour as the background, just like the way her head fades into that background. So I'm going to select that piece there, and I'm going to carry on adjusting my image to the style of this artist's work. So here's my response to the style of this artist. As you can see, the artist uses a non-representational colour, so this is quite a contrast to the first artist that we looked at today. And now I'm going to show you some examples of students' work where they've been working to the same project brief. Okay, so we've got the realistic sample in Chris Lyons, followed by the Rubens extension work. Again, this piece as well, a realistic Illustrator drawing that's been extended into the style of the Rubens with an alternative colour palette, additional shapes and lines, and see how different students have interpreted this project differently. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching and you've learnt something from this lesson today. Further work on Adobe Illustrator includes logo design, branding, typographical layout, and many more illustrations. If you have any questions or queries about the course, please get in touch. Thank you.